The Dream Train to the Stars. Part 1. The Boy Who Spoke to Stars. In a quiet little village tucked between green hills and a silver river lived a boy named Elian. Elian was unlike any other child in the village. While others played and shouted in the sun, Elian loved to lie on the roof of his house after twilight, gazing at the stars above. He didn't just look at them, he talked to them. Every night, after his parents had gone to sleep, and the last candle in the house had been blown out, Elian would tiptoe to the rooftop with a blanket and a cup of warm milk. He'd sit there, his big, curious eyes blinking at the sky. "Hello again," he would whisper to the stars. "Did you miss me?" Of course, no one else could hear the stars reply. But Elian felt their answers, soft flickers, twinkling brighter when he asked a question, dimming gently when he told them a sad story. Some villagers said Elian was strange. Others thought he was simply dreamy. But Elian didn't mind. He believed, in the deepest corner of his heart, that the stars were alive. And what's more, that they were listening. One night, after a particularly stormy day, the sky had cleared into a velvet canvas of stars. Elian felt a hum in the air, the kind of hum you hear when something magical is about to happen. And then he saw it, a shimmer like a silver ribbon winding through the sky. It wasn't a cloud. It wasn't a shooting star. It was something else, something moving. And then, ever so faintly, he heard the sound. Not thunder, not wind, but the train. Part 2. The silver tracks in the sky. Elian's heart fluttered as he looked up. The silver shimmer grew clearer and brighter, twisting and turning like a glowing river in the night. It was a railway made of light, a track stretching through the sky, curving past the stars, disappearing behind clouds that glittered with moonlight. And on that track came a train, but not like any train Elian had ever seen. It floated, carried by the night air, its carriages soft and shimmering, like they were made of clouds and stardust. The wheels didn't touch rails, instead, they hummed with magic. The train slowed and stopped just beside Elian's rooftop. A door opened, and out stepped a man in a dark blue coat covered with tiny shining stars. "Welcome, Elian," he said gently. "The dream train has come to take you on a journey beyond the stars. Are you ready to ride?" Elian nodded, his eyes wide with wonder. With a breath full of excitement, he stepped forward and climbed aboard. Part 3. The Conductor of Dreams. Inside the train, the air smelled like warm vanilla and fresh rain. The seats were soft as clouds, and the windows showed a swirling view of galaxies, nebulae, and shimmering star clusters. The conductor smiled kindly. "My name is Orion," he said. "I am the keeper of the dream train. Tonight, we will visit places no one on earth has ever seen, places where dreams live and grow." Elian felt a flutter in his chest. He sat down and looked out the window, watching Earth grow smaller and smaller until it became a tiny blue dot. Hold tight, said Orion. Our first stop is the Garden of Forgotten Wishes. Part 4. The Garden of Forgotten Wishes. The first carriage was unlike any garden Elian had ever seen. Trees sparkled with glowing fruit, and the air hummed softly with whispers. As Elian walked, he heard soft voices all around. They are wishes, explained Orion, wishes forgotten or lost, left behind by dreamers who have stopped believing. Elian gently touched a glowing flower. It whispered, I wanted to fly with butterflies. Elian smiled softly. Maybe you still will, he said. The garden was alive with light and hope. Some wishes floated up and followed Elian, eager to find a new dreamer. Part 5. The Planetarium of Possibilities. The next carriage was a giant dome filled with twinkling stars and moving constellations. Above, images of possible futures danced in the sky, places to explore, adventures to live, dreams yet to be dreamed. Elian saw a vision of himself sailing a silver ship through Saturn's rings, planting trees on floating islands, and laughing with friends in shining cities. Can all these things come true? Elian asked. Only if you believe in them, Orion said. The stars show us what might be, but it is your heart that makes the journey real. Part 6. The Clockmaker's Dream. The next carriage was filled with clocks of all shapes and sizes. Some ticked forward, others backward, and some didn't tick at all. In the middle sat an old clockmaker, carefully crafting a delicate watch. Time here is different, he said softly. Dreams take moments, lifetimes, or even forever. Every second counts. He handed Elian a small watch. This watch ticks only when you are truly yourself. Elian held it close, and for the first time, he heard a steady ticking inside his heart. Part 7. The Sea of Sleeping Whales. Elian entered the next carriage and found himself floating in warm, glowing water. Beneath the surface, giant whales slept, singing lullabies that vibrated through the air. One young whale looked up and asked, Will you remember us when you wake? I will, Elian promised. The sea hummed gently as the whales drifted back into peaceful sleep. Part 8. The Library of Lost Stories. In the following carriage, walls of books stretched to the stars. Each book held a story forgotten by the world. Elian pulled out a dusty volume and read about brave heroes and hidden lands. The stories whispered their secrets to him. Every story waits for a new dreamer, a soft voice said. Elian knew then that he would carry these stories with him forever. Part 9. The Room of Echoes. This carriage was silent except for echoes of laughter and whispers from past travelers. Elian heard his own voice, asking questions he hadn't yet answered. The echoes taught him to listen, not just with ears, but with his heart. Part 10. The Cloud Bridge. A delicate bridge made of clouds stretched into the stars. Elian stepped onto it, feeling light as air. Orion said, This bridge connects dreams to reality. Every step you take here shapes your waking world. Elian walked slowly, each step brightening the stars beneath him. Part 11. The Garden of Night Flowers. Here, flowers bloomed only at night, glowing softly in colors Elian had never seen. Their petals whispered secrets of the universe. Elian gently touched a flower, and a wave of calm washed over him. Part 12. The Hall of Mirrors. This carriage was filled with mirrors showing different versions of Elian. Some brave, some scared, some joyful. Look deep, Orion said, and you'll see all the parts of yourself. Elian smiled, feeling whole and ready for the journey ahead. Part 13. The Star Weaver's Workshop. Elian watched a star weaver, spinning threads of light to create new stars. Every dream is a thread, the weaver said, and together they form the tapestry of the night sky. Elian reached out, touching a glowing thread that shimmered like hope. Part 14. The Lantern Festival. Thousands of lanterns floated around, each carrying a wish or a dream. Elian lit his own lantern and released it into the sky, watching it rise with a gentle glow. Part 15. The Dreamer's Feast. In the final carriage for the night, Elian was greeted with a feast of mooncakes and starberries. Other dreamers from many worlds shared stories and laughter. Elian felt at home, knowing this journey had just begun. Part 16. The Whispering Winds. The dream train moved slowly, gliding through the sky like a gentle bird. Elian leaned out of the window and felt a soft breeze brush against his face. This wasn't an ordinary wind. It was filled with whispers, delicate voices from faraway places, carrying stories, dreams, and memories that had traveled across time and space. The whispers swirled around Elian like invisible ribbons, wrapping him in a warm embrace. He closed his eyes and let the voices speak to him. He heard tales of dreamers who had once soared too high, of children who never stopped believing, and of hopes that refused to fade, no matter how dark the night grew. One voice sang a lullaby about a lost star that found its way home. Another spoke softly of a wish to be heard when the world felt too loud. Elian's heart felt lighter with every whisper. He realized that these winds carried not just stories, but also the courage to keep dreaming. Orion, the conductor, appeared beside him and smiled. The winds remind us that dreams are never truly gone. They travel on the air, waiting for someone to catch them. Elian nodded, feeling the promise that no matter where he went, dreams would always find him. Part 17. The Bridge of Stars. As the train rounded a sparkling bend, Elian found himself standing on a narrow bridge made entirely of stars. It stretched far into the darkness, connecting one twinkling constellation to another. With every step, the stars beneath his feet glowed warmly, lighting the path ahead. Below, the endless universe sparkled like a sea of diamonds, mysterious and vast. Elian felt a strange mix of excitement and calm. Walking the bridge of stars felt like stepping between dreams and reality. Fragile yet strong, fleeting yet eternal. He paused midway and looked back. The dream train shimmered softly, waiting patiently for him. Ahead, the bridge seemed to lead to a radiant city built of light, where dreams were born and nurtured. Orion's voice echoed softly. This bridge connects your heart to the infinite possibilities waiting for you. Each step you take is a promise to follow your dreams, no matter how far they lead. Elian took a deep breath and stepped forward, feeling the stars hum beneath his feet. Part 18. The Garden of Crystal Flowers. The train slowed and glided into a carriage that looked like a magical greenhouse. Inside, flowers made of pure crystal sparkled and shimmered, reflecting light in dazzling colors that shifted with every movement. Elian reached out and gently touched a crystal petal. It sang a soft, haunting melody, a song of the universe itself. Each flower seemed alive, its delicate song telling stories of hope, love, and courage. As Elian wandered deeper into the garden, the air filled with a peaceful energy that made his chest feel warm and full. He realized that these flowers were not just beautiful. They were the shining dreams of countless souls, preserved in shimmering light. Orion whispered, "Every crystal flower here holds a dream waiting to bloom." Sometimes, all a dream needs is a gentle touch to come alive. Elian closed his eyes, imagining his own dreams glowing like those flowers, ready to shine bright someday. Part 19. The Chamber of Wishes. The next carriage was quieter, almost sacred. Walls glowed with a soft silver light, and the air was filled with the gentle hum of countless whispered hopes. Elian stepped inside and felt the weight of his own secret wishes settle softly in his heart. He knelt down and whispered his deepest wish into the chamber, feeling it float upward like a feather carried on a breeze. The walls shimmered and pulsed, as if accepting his wish into their endless collection. Orion stood quietly beside him and said, "Here, wishes find a home. No matter how small or big, every wish is a star waiting to shine in the night sky." Elian smiled, feeling hopeful and brave. He knew his wish was safe here, growing stronger with each passing moment. Part 20. The Lantern of Memories. Elian entered a small, cozy carriage glowing warmly with golden light. In the center hung a lantern filled with shimmering images that floated gently inside like fireflies. As he approached, the images changed, showing moments from his own life. Laughter with his family, the first time he climbed a tree, the comforting touch of his mother's hand. The memories wrapped around Elian like a soft blanket, filling him with love and courage. Holding the lantern close, he understood that these memories were the foundation of his dreams. They gave him strength when the road ahead felt uncertain. Orion smiled. "Never forget where you come from. Memories light the way when darkness falls." Part 21. The Sky Painter Studio. The dream train gently floated into a carriage that felt like a vast, open studio. The ceiling was a swirling canvas of twilight colors, purples, blues, and pinks blending like the last moments of a sunset. At the center stood the sky painter, an artist with hands glowing softly like moonlight. He dipped his brush into pools of shimmering light and painted streaks across the sky, shooting stars, swirling galaxies, and clouds painted in gold. Alian watched, fascinated, as the painter smiled and said, "Every dream begins with a stroke of imagination. The sky is the canvas of possibility." The painter handed Alian a brush made from a single star's tail. "Paint your dreams," he said gently. Alian reached out and brushed the air, leaving a trail of sparkling light. His heart filled with hope as he imagined the places his dreams could take him. Part 22. The Garden of Floating Lights. This carriage was alive with thousands of tiny glowing lights, like fireflies trapped in a soft, warm mist. They floated all around, drifting slowly in patterns that looked like dancing constellations. Alian stretched out his hands, and some of the lights gently landed on his fingertips, tickling softly like whispers. "These are the lights of hope," whispered Orion. "They guide lost dreamers back to the path." Alian followed the lights deeper into the carriage, feeling a calmness spread through him. The floating lights wrapped around him like a gentle embrace, filling him with warmth. He realized that even when the night is darkest, hope still shines small, steady, and eternal. Part 23. The Timekeeper's Watchtower. The train slowed as it entered a tall, spiraling tower filled with giant clocks that ticked in rhythm with the universe. At the top stood the timekeeper, an old figure with eyes like galaxies and hands that held the threads of moments. He beckoned Alian closer and said, "Time is a river, flowing differently in dreams. Moments may seem fleeting, but their meaning lasts forever." The timekeeper handed Alian a delicate hourglass filled with stardust. "Use this to remember," he said. "Every choice you make shapes your path." Alian held the hourglass tightly, feeling the stardust flow gently through his fingers. He understood that his journey was not just through space, but through moments, each one precious and full of meaning. Part 24. The Meadow of Soft Dreams. Alian stepped off the train into a vast meadow filled with clouds that felt like soft pillows. The grass glowed faintly under the starlight, and the air was sweet with the scent of wildflowers. He lay down on the fluffy clouds and felt himself sinking into the softest sleep. Around him, dream creatures, gentle beings of light and mist hummed lullabies that wrapped him in peace. For the first time on his journey, Alian felt completely still and calm. The meadow whispered that rest was as important as dreaming. He closed his eyes and let the dreams come to him, soft, warm, and endless. Part 25. The Cave of Shining Crystals. awakening refreshed. Elian entered a cavern glittering with thousands of crystals. Each one reflected his hopes, fears, and dreams, turning them into beautiful colors of light. As he walked deeper, the crystals hummed softly, echoing his heartbeat. One crystal shone brighter than the rest. When Elian touched it, memories of courage and kindness filled his mind. The cave reminded him that even the darkest fears could become shining strengths if faced with an open heart. Elian smiled, feeling braver than ever before. Part 26. The Ocean of Stars. The dream train transformed into a gleaming ship, floating gently on a vast ocean made entirely of stars. The waves shimmered softly, reflecting constellations that danced with every ripple. Elian stood at the bow, feeling the cool starlight breeze against his face. The stars whispered secrets of the universe, stories of endless possibilities and endless journeys. Elian felt small, but connected to everything, as if he was part of a greater dream woven through space and time. Orion smiled and said, "This ocean reminds us that dreams have no limits. You can sail as far as your heart dares." Part 27. The Garden of Silent Songs. Elian entered a quiet garden where flowers swayed without sound, their petals glowing faintly. Though no music played, the garden hummed with silent songs, melodies felt only by the heart. Here, Elian learned that some dreams are quiet, soft, and slow-growing. They need patience and gentle care, but when they bloom, their beauty lasts forever. Part 28. The Library of Endless Pages. The train carried Elian to a library stretching beyond sight. Its shelves filled with books that held the stories of every dream ever dreamed. Elian pulled a book from the shelf and found his own name written inside. He smiled, knowing his story was part of the vast tapestry of dreams. The librarian whispered, "Every dreamer adds a new page. Your journey is just beginning." Part 29. The Hall of Golden Mirrors. Elian stepped into a hall of mirrors, glowing with golden light. Each mirror reflected a different future paths where he was brave, kind, joyful, or wise. He realized that every choice could lead to a new dream, and that he held the power to shape his destiny. Part 30. The Dreamer's Promise. The dream train slowed to a gentle glide, floating above a bed of clouds that shimmered like silver feathers. The sky outside had turned into a velvet curtain of deep indigo, pierced by distant galaxies and glowing moons. Inside the carriage, soft golden lanterns hung from invisible threads, casting long, dancing shadows across the floor. Elian sat by the window, his chin resting on his knees. He had seen so much gardens that whispered forgotten wishes, whales that sang the lullabies of the stars, clocks that ticked only for the true self. But somewhere deep inside, a feeling tugged gently at his chest, a question, quiet but certain. When the dream ends, what will I take back with me? As if hearing his thoughts, Orion, the conductor, stepped into the carriage. His coat shimmered more softly now, and in his hands he held a small velvet pouch that pulsed with a quiet glow. "Elian," he said, kneeling to the boy's eye level, "you have walked the halls of dreams with an open heart. You've listened to stars, painted the sky, and shared your hopes with silent gardens. But every journey must return to its beginning. And before you go, something must be returned to you." He untied the pouch and placed a glowing object in Elian's hand. It was a star small enough to fit in his palm, but bright enough to light the whole room. Not the blinding kind of light, but warm, comforting, like the glow of a nightlight on a child's bedside table. Elian stared at it, mesmerized. He could see things inside it, not pictures, but feelings. Courage, wonder, laughter. The quiet peace of being exactly who he was. "This," said Orion gently, "is a promise. A dreamer's promise." Elian looked up. "A promise to do what?" Orion smiled. "To never forget. To remember that dreams don't disappear when we wake. They hide in the corners of the day, waiting to be seen again. This star will remind you that even on ordinary days, you carry the extraordinary within you." Elian held the star close to his heart. It was warm, alive. Suddenly, the train gave a low, melodic hum, the sound of nearing the end of the line. Orion stood and looked toward the window. "Soon we'll arrive home, but don't be afraid. The dream train always leaves a door open. You'll ride again, not by train, maybe, but in stories, in kindness, in the quiet moments before sleep." Elian nodded. He understood now. He didn't have to stay on the train to remain a dreamer. The train had already become part of him. Outside, the clouds began to part, revealing the familiar hills and rooftops of Elian's village. The stars above still sparkled, but now he saw them differently, not as distant lights, but as friends whispering, "We're still here." As the dream train began to descend, Elian looked down at the glowing star in his hand. Then he looked at the sky and made a promise of his own. "I'll keep dreaming. I'll never stop." And with that, the carriage doors opened, and the soft light of dawn touched the earth once more. Part 31, The Forgotten Station. Elian blinked as the dream train slowly came to a halt. But it wasn't his village. No, this was a station unlike any he had seen before. The air was still, the sky above pale gray, and a silence hung in the air like a held breath. He stepped out and found himself in what looked like an abandoned station, cracked with time, but still beautiful. Moss had grown between the stones, and vines with soft silver flowers clung to the arches. Above him, a faded sign read, "The Forgotten Station, where lost dreams sleep." A strange hush blanketed the place. As he walked further, he saw a row of glass cases along the platform. Inside them, like museum displays, were flickering images, dreams that had never come true. One showed a girl who had once wished to dance, but forgot the rhythm. Another, a boy who longed to explore but was told to stay safe. Alian's heart ached. These weren't just dreams, they were people's hopes, trapped and waiting. Suddenly, an elderly figure emerged, cloaked in moth-eaten robes, eyes like fatting stars. "You see them, don't you?" he rasped. "Most forget, most walk past, but you're still dreaming." "Why are they trapped?" Elian asked softly. "Because they were abandoned," the figure said. "Dreams only die when we stop believing. But sometimes, someone like you comes along to wake them up." Elian stepped forward. He touched the glass case in front of him, the dream of the little girl who once danced. The moment his fingers met the glass, it shimmered, cracked, and dissolved like dust in wind. The dream was free. All around him, the cases began to hum. One by one, dreams rose from their slumber, glowing softly, drifting upward like lanterns toward the heavens. Elian smiled. He realized, sometimes we're not just dreamers, we're keepers of others' forgotten hopes. The train whistled in the distance. It was time to go. Part 32, The Mirror of the Self. The next carriage was unlike any other. It was made entirely of mirrors, walls, ceiling, floor, endless reflections in every direction. Elian stepped inside and was surrounded by versions of himself. Some were younger, scared. Some were braver, stronger. Some looked tired. Others looked wise. And then, in the center of the carriage, stood a tall, shimmering mirror framed in crystal starlight. "The mirror of the self," said a voice. It was his own voice, but older, deeper. "Only the brave may look," the voice continued, "and see who they truly are." Elian stepped forward. At first, the mirror simply reflected his image, but slowly it began to change. He saw himself crying under his blanket after losing his father's old watch. He saw the time he almost gave up drawing because others laughed. He saw his fear, his doubt, but also his moments of joy, his laughter, his kindness. Then he saw something unexpected. He saw potential, a version of himself standing on a stage, telling stories. Another building things with his hands. Another helping others in their darkest hour. The mirror showed not who he was, but who he could become. Tears welled in Elian's eyes. Can I really be all that? The mirror shimmered and whispered, "You already are. You just haven't seen it yet." The train lurched slightly, pulling forward. Elian turned, not with fear, but with determination. Part 33, The Last Starkeeper. The next carriage was darker than the rest, lit only by thousands of tiny stars floating in glass orbs. The floor was like midnight water, reflecting the lights above. In the middle stood a woman with hair like flowing galaxies, her eyes glowing silver. "I am Astra," she said, "the last Starkeeper." She held a lantern that contained a single dim star, barely flickering. "This," she said, "is the last forgotten dream in this world. It belongs to someone who no longer believes in themselves." "Can I help?" Elian asked instantly. Astra nodded. only if you can listen. Sometimes lost dreams don't need to be rescued, they need to be heard. She handed the lantern to Elian, and suddenly the room shifted. He was in a gray, rainy city street. A teenage girl sat alone under a flickering lamp post, her sketchbook closed, her eyes hollow. Elian sat beside her. No words, just silence. After a while, she turned her head. Do you think dreams are stupid? No, Elian said gently. I think forgetting them is. She looked at her sketchbook and opened it, and in that moment, the dim star inside the lantern blazed to life, brighter than any before. The illusion faded. Elian was back in the carriage. Astra smiled. You have done what few can. You've made someone believe again. And with that, one more star joined the night sky. Part 34. The Song of the Sleeper Moon. The train hummed like a lullaby as it entered a tunnel veiled in silken mist. When it emerged, Elian found himself in a carriage unlike any he had seen before. It was circular, with velvet cushions and lanterns that floated in the air like jellyfish. The windows no longer showed stars. Instead, they showed one vast, glowing moon, hanging impossibly close, as if he could reach out and touch it. As the train slowed, the doors opened not to a platform, but to a moonlit field, blanketed with silver flowers that swayed to no wind. Elian came a soft voice. He turned. A young woman, pale as pearl, with hair like the night sky, stepped from the shadows. Her eyes shimmered like dew on leaves. I am Lyra, the keeper of the sleeper moon, she said, placing a hand over her heart. This moon you see is not in the sky. It lives inside the heart of every dreamer, glowing only when they dare to rest. Elian looked up. It's beautiful, but dim, she said with sadness. Most children no longer sleep with wonder. They sleep with worry. The stars that once guided them have faded. Lyra guided Elian to a small hilltop. There lay a giant silver harp strung with strings of light. Play, if you can, she whispered. Play a lullaby for those who forgot how to dream. Elian stepped up. He never played a harp before, but his hands moved as if guided by something ancient. As the strings sang, the moon brightened. The silver flowers shimmered. Far away, in distant bedrooms across Earth, children turned in their sleep, their faces softening, their breathing deepening. One by one, their dreams returned. When the song ended, the moon pulsed, not with sadness, but with hope. Lyra smiled, tears in her eyes. Tonight, you became more than a dreamer. You became a dream bringer. The train's whistle echoed, soft as a sigh. It was time to go again. Part 35. The Cloud Architect. The next stop was not on land, but in air high above, in a floating city made entirely of clouds. Pillars of mist, streets paved in soft fog, homes that drifted like balloons. Elian stepped out onto a floating bridge that gently swayed beneath his feet. In the distance stood a figure on a ladder that reached the sky itself. He was drawing blueprints in the air, using lightning as ink and wind as paper. "Welcome," the man called cheerfully. "I'm Nimbus, cloud architect, builder of dream shelters, castles of imagination, and hideaways for thoughts that need space." Elian approached as Nimbus sketched a small hut with a roof made of feathered thoughts and a window shaped like a child's smile. "What do you build these for?" Elian asked. "For minds that are too full, for hearts that need room to breathe. Not all dreams shout. Some whisper, and they need soft places to grow." Nimbus gave Elian a quill. "Here, design one." Elian paused, then began sketching. He drew a simple round room with shelves made of stories and a ceiling painted like the night sky. A bed shaped like a crescent moon and wind chimes made of laughter. When he was done, the drawing floated upward, shimmered, and turned real. It drifted into the distance to some soul who needed it most. "Every dreamer," Nimbus said, "should also be a builder. Don't just chase dreams, give them a home." With that, a stairway of mist appeared, leading back to the train. Elian waved goodbye, carrying with him a piece of cloud in his pocket. Part 36. The Clockmaker of Tomorrow. The train's next carriage ticked, not with movement, but with time itself. Gears turned in midair. Hourglasses floated upside down. Calendars fluttered like birds. At the center stood a tall woman dressed in copper robes, with hair braided like clock hands. "I am Cronel, Clockmaker of Tomorrow," she said, not looking up from her workbench. "I fix the broken futures." She placed a shattered watch in Elian's hands. "Look." He saw images inside it. A boy who once wanted to be a writer, but never believed he could. He saw the boy grow up, full of regret. "This future cracked," Cronel said, "because the present was filled with fear." Elian felt a sting in his chest. "Can't we change it?" Cronel looked him in the eyes. "You already are. Every choice you make now repairs a gear in someone else's tomorrow." She opened a drawer and took out a tiny golden watch. "Here, this is yours." Inside it, Elian saw hundreds of tiny moving scenes, versions of his future. Some showed him helping people. Others showed him lost in sadness. Some showed him building, creating, loving. "All are possible," she whispered. "But only one will come to pass, the one you believe in most." The clock chimed. It was time to go. Cronel bowed. "Remember, dreamer, the future is not written in stone. It is crafted in seconds." Elian nodded, holding the watch close to his heart. Part 37. The City Where Stars Are Born. When the train slowed again, Elian stepped into a city suspended in the heart of a nebula. The air shimmered with golden dust, and above him floated tiny glowing orbs, not yet stars, but starseeds waiting to be born. A figure approached. She was cloaked in silver mist, with eyes like supernovas. "Welcome, Elian," she said. "I am Viora, the midwife of the stars." Elian looked around in awe. "Are these stars being made?" Viora nodded gently. Every time a dream is born in a pure heart, a new starseed forms. Some grow into stars that light the universe. Others, she held up one that flickered dimly, fade if the dream is forgotten. They walked together through the stardust gardens. Each bloom was a child's dream, one to fly, one to heal the sick, one to protect forests, one to find true friendship. But deeper in the garden lay a darkened area, filled with withered seeds and silent air. These, Vyra whispered, are dreams buried by fear, doubt, and sorrow. Alien's heart tightened. Can they come back? She looked at him with a soft smile. Sometimes, all it takes is for someone to remember them. And so Alien did something bold. He stepped into the garden and began whispering names, names of dreams he had once abandoned. The time he wanted to be a writer. The time he imagined building a treehouse for every orphan. The time he wanted to travel the stars. And as he spoke, one by one, the withered seeds pulsed and began to glow. Behind him, Vyra wept not out of sadness, but out of hope reborn. Part 38. The River of Lost Names. The next station had no tracks. The train floated slowly over a glowing river, as wide as the night sky itself. This, said a voice, is the River of Lost Names. A hooded figure sat at its edge, casting pebbles into the current. I am Tally's, keeper of the forgotten, he said, without looking up. This river carries the names of every child who has forgotten their own magic. Elian knelt beside him, watching as names swirled past. Amara, Luca, Kavi, Nor, Elena. Why are they forgotten? He asked. Because they were told they weren't enough, that their stories didn't matter. So they buried their names under silence. Tally's handed Elian a small glowing orb. Inside is one such name, yours to remember. Elian peered into the orb. He saw a little girl painting the sky with her fingers. Her name was Tula, a child who once dreamed of becoming the wind. But she had been mocked. Wind isn't a job, they told her. She stopped dreaming. Her name faded into the river. I want to find her, Elian said. I want to give her dream back. Tally's smiled for the first time. Then cast this orb into the sky. Let the stars remember her. Elian raised the orb high and released it into the air. It floated, glowed, and then soared upward, becoming a shooting star. Far away, a girl stirred in her sleep and smiled. Tula's dream had returned. Part 39. The Hall of Forgotten Goodbyes. Elian's next step brought him to a place heavier than the rest. A quiet chamber lined with mirrors, each glowing faintly. A soft voice greeted him. You've come to the Hall of Forgotten Goodbyes. An old woman sat beside a fountain of memories. Her eyes were warm and endless. I am Myra, the listener. Here lie the goodbyes that were never spoken, words left unsaid, tears never wept. Elian wandered through the hall. In each mirror he saw stories. A child who lost a pet, but never cried, afraid to look weak. A boy whose best friend moved away. but he never said goodbye, thinking it wouldn't hurt. A girl who lost her grandmother, but kept her sorrow locked deep inside. Then he came to a mirror that showed himself. He was much younger, crying softly under a tree. "It was the day your friend Nilo moved away," Myra whispered. "You never said goodbye. You just ran away." Elian touched the mirror. "I didn't know how." "It's never too late," Myra said gently. "Here, even forgotten goodbyes can be healed." She handed him a feather quill. "Write the goodbye your heart never got to say." Elian's hands trembled as he wrote, "Dear Nilo, I missed you every day. I was scared to say goodbye because I didn't want you to go. But I'm glad you were my friend. I hope you found joy." As he finished, the mirror shimmered and showed Nilo smiling back. Peace long overdue filled Elian's chest. Part 40, the final gate. The train now moved slower. The stars outside were thinning, turning soft and golden. Elian stood alone in the final carriage. Ahead was a golden gate, floating in the void. A voice filled the space, echoing from within. "Dreamer, your journey nears its end. Are you ready to remember who you truly are?" Elian's heart pounded. One by one, the lessons from each station came back to him. That dreams create light. That fear dims, but never kills. That memories, goodbyes, names, and hopes are threads of one vast story. A figure emerged from the light. It was Elian himself, but older, wiser, and surrounded by shimmering stars. "You," said the older Elian, "are not just a traveler. You are the new conductor of the dream train." The train, once mysterious and unknown, now belonged to him. "It's time for you to guide others," said his future self, "to carry their hopes and help them dream again." Elian nodded. He stepped through the golden gate, and the train's whistle cried out, not as a goodbye, but as a beginning. Part 41, the first passenger. The dream train had changed. It no longer ran on silent tracks through the stars. Now it glowed from within, alive with purpose. And at its heart, Elian, the new conductor, stood waiting for his very first passenger. A soft chime rang out. A hatch opened, and through it stepped a little girl in a red scarf, holding a broken telescope. She looked around nervously. "Is this the place where dreams go?" Elian knelt beside her. "Yes, what's your name?" She hesitated. "They used to call me Myra, but I haven't dreamed in a long time." Her voice was small. Her telescope hung useless in her hand. One lens cracked, the other clouded. "I wanted to be an explorer," she whispered. "But then I lost my brother. He always said we'd explore together. I can't do it alone." Elian gently touched the telescope. "This isn't broken," he said. "It's just forgotten how to see." He guided Myra to the viewing window of the train. As the stars drifted past, he whispered, "Sometimes exploring means learning to dream again, even when the one we love is gone." She slowly raised her telescope. Through the lens, the stars sparkled, and then, in one of them, she saw a silhouette, her brother, smiling from afar. Tears filled her eyes. He's still watching. Aaliyah nodded. And waiting for you to keep going. For the first time in years, Myra smiled. Part 42. The Boy Who Drew Fire. The next dreamer boarded in a swirl of smoke and cinders. He was a thin boy with soot on his cheeks and a sketchbook clutched to his chest. Flames flickered on his fingertips, but he didn't seem afraid. "They call me Blaze," he muttered, "because everything I touch burns." Aaliyah led him to the train's dream chamber, where images floated like silk in the air. "What do you dream of, Blaze?" The boy hesitated. "To paint without setting the paper on fire. To create something that doesn't get destroyed." He opened his sketchbook. Inside were charred, half-burned images, dragons with missing wings, forests with blackened trees, stars that ended in ash. "I'm cursed," he whispered. "No," Aaliyah replied. "You're untamed. And this train, it listens to hearts, not fears." He handed Blaze a special brush, one that shimmered like starlight. "Paint here, in this space between stars." Blaze began to draw. This time, fire flowed like silk. It curled into phoenix wings, glowing gardens, a sky ablaze not with ruin, but beauty. And in that moment, Blaze's fire turned from chaos into creation. He looked up at Aaliyah, his eyes wide with joy. "I didn't burn it." "No," said Aaliyah, "you lit it up." Part 43. The Song in the Silence. The next carriage was empty, or so it seemed. But Aaliyah felt it, a presence, like a whisper between two heartbeats. Then came a sound, not a word, not a cry. A note, soft, pure, ancient. Aaliyah turned and saw her. A girl, blindfolded, sitting alone, with a harp that glowed faintly. She never opened her mouth, but the strings answered her touch. Her name was Ori. She was born deaf, but she could hear the vibrations of stars. "I've never spoken," she signed with her hands, "but the stars sing to me." Her melodies were made of moments, the hum of moonlight, the echo of loneliness, the lullaby of galaxies. Aaliyah sat beside her, simply listening. Then together, they composed something new, a song not made of words, but memories. It told of a storm that turned into a dance, of tears that watered dreams, of silence that sang louder than screams. When Ori finished, she placed her hand on Aaliyah's chest, and though no words passed between them, Aaliyah heard her clearly. "Thank you for hearing the song no one else could." Part 44. The Dream Thief. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The train shook. A dark mist crept in from the edges of the carriages. Aaliyah shouted Myra, "Something's wrong." From the mist, a figure emerged, long, shadowy, with a cloak of swirling fog and empty eyes. "I am Varnax," it hissed, "collector of abandoned dreams." Aaliyah stood firm. "You don't belong here." "I belong wherever hope dies," Varnax snarled. "These children's dreams, they forget them, and I feed on them." He reached for Myra's telescope, but Blaze leapt between them, flames in his hands. No, she's dreaming again. Varnex growled, not for long. The mist grew thicker. Then Ari began to play. Her harp sang with ancient notes of courage, memory, and light. The sound tore through the fog, like wind through smoke. Varnex screamed, not in pain, but in loss. Elian raised his conductor's lantern, now glowing with the dreams of every passenger. You have no place here. Return to the void. The light surged. Varnex howled and vanished. Silence returned, and with it a new lesson. Dreams must be protected, not just remembered. Part 45. A home between the stars. The train sailed now into a calmer part of the sky. The passengers Myra, Blaze, Ori sat together, talking, drawing, playing. Elian stood at the helm, watching them, proud. He turned to the empty space beside him, once filled with doubt, now filled with light. This is your purpose, a voice whispered inside him. To carry dreams, even when others can't. To make this train a home between the stars. Elian looked out the window. Ahead lay new destinations, new dreamers, new stories. And for the first time, he didn't just feel like a traveler. He felt like a guardian, a protector of wonder, a keeper of light. The dream train whistled again, not to end the journey, but to invite you aboard next. Part 46. The Dream That Escaped a Book. One evening, as the stars shimmered in gentle patterns across the train's path, a strange wind swept through the library carriage, the one where forgotten books rested. Suddenly, a book tumbled from the highest shelf. It fell open, and something stepped out. She was made of parchment and ink, her skin etched with poetry, her hair curling like lines of calligraphy. Her name was Lyra, and she had once lived inside a child's bedtime story, a tale never finished. I escaped, she whispered to Elian. He stopped reading, and the ending was never written. I didn't want to vanish. Elian understood. She wasn't a dreamer. She was a dream itself, desperate to stay alive. You don't have to disappear, Elian said, leading her to the observation deck. He called Blaze, Myra, and Ori. Together, they listened as Lyra recited the half-story she came from of kingdoms made of kindness, rivers made of laughter, and battles won with forgiveness. But the ending is missing, Lyra said sadly. Myra smiled. Then let's write it. Blaze drew the final battle. Ori composed the final melody. Myra crafted the closing lines. And with Elian guiding them, they finished the story together. Lyra shimmered with golden light. Now I am complete, she said. And instead of fatting, she chose to stay, not as a forgotten tale, but as a living passenger, the dream of imagination itself. Part 47. The Star That Fell Too Soon. A strange ripple shimmered across the dream tracks. The train slowed. Outside the windows, a fallen star lay cradled in the rings of Saturn. Not just any star, a child, glowing faintly, flickering like a candle in wind. Elian stepped outside, floating gently through zero gravity. he reached the fallen star. I couldn't shine any more, the child whispered. Too many people made wishes, but forgot about me. Each wish ungranted had become a crack in the star's surface. Elian held him close. You were never meant to do it alone. He called the others. Myra whispered wishes that had come true. Blaze painted ones that still might. Ori sang songs to guide the broken wishes home. And Lyra wrapped the star in a story, not about granting wishes, but believing in their power. Slowly, the star child brightened. One by one, the cracks sealed. I think I can shine again, he whispered. Not for them, but for me. The others cheered, and as the child rose into the stars once more, he left behind a trail of hope, enough to power the train for 1,000 journeys. Part 48. The Dream That Refused to Sleep. They met her in a desert of starlight, where nothing moved and time seemed to hold its breath. A girl stood alone, wide-eyed, awake. I can't sleep, she said. I'm afraid I'll disappear if I do. Her name was Nima, and she had lived a life so filled with pain that dreams had become dangerous. Her nights were filled with storms, her sleep filled with shadows. So I stopped sleeping, she explained. Stopped dreaming, but now I'm tired. Elian gently touched her shoulder. You're safe here. This train doesn't bring nightmares. It heals them. He took her to the healing cabin, a place no one had entered before. Inside, soft music played, and images from the passengers, dreams, floated like feathers. Nima watched others laugh, cry hope. She finally whispered, Can I try? She closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she slept. Her dream showed her as a small child, running through a field, arms outstretched. Her parents stood nearby, smiling. The sky was soft blue. No fear, no storm. And when she awoke hours later, the shadows were gone. I didn't disappear, she whispered. I found myself. Elian smiled. That's the real dream. Part 49. The Last Stop. The train's whistle changed. It was deeper, slower, a sound that echoed like a farewell. Elian walked to the front cabin and found a golden map glowing on the wall. A final destination pulsed gently, the edge of all dreams. The passengers gathered. Is this where we get off? Blaze asked. No, said Lyra. This is where we find out why we were on board. The train slowed as they reached a shimmering platform made of stardust. Each passenger was called, one by one. Myra walked into a telescope and became a guide for lost explorers. Blaze stepped into a flame and became an artist in the auroras. Ori vanished into the silence and became the music in newborn galaxies. Lyra became a constellation, her story written across the sky. Nima faded into a warm light, becoming the voice that tells children it's okay to rest. And Elian, he remained, because the dream train would return, and someone had to greet the next dreamers. Part 50. The dream continues. The carriages were quiet again. Empty beds, empty halls, Elian stood alone, or so he thought, until a soft chime rang. A small door opened. A new child stood there, blinking in wonder. "I heard your whistle," the child said. "I think I'm ready to dream." Elian smiled, lantern in hand. "Then step aboard." And with a shimmer of stardust, the dream train whistled once more, not to say goodbye, but to say, "Once upon another night." And off it went, through the stars, through time, through hearts, because dreams never truly end.